followers. I'm up to now maybe a couple hundred. I haven't even looked, not too many. But I'm going to do a recap. As the thumbnail says, my little compound fox ended up winning its first competition that I entered it in. Kind of got lucky, but you know, sometimes luck is just as good as skill. But I'm going to do a quick recap on it and kind of walk you through what happened leading up to it. And oh yeah, there's the check. It's fun to get those things, you know. It's been a while, but so I've had just quick, and I'll get into the videos. If you guys just want to see videos, then I don't know what to say, but this is more about explaining what happened along with some action videos, and I'll explain each one of them ahead of time. I don't know if I'll parcel it out and edit it, because honestly, editing software is being kind of a pain. But for now, I'm just going to go over, sit down here real quick, drink my monster drink, and I mix up with my ice, marinated. Told my friends that's the only way I do it. But well, today we'll go over it. So I've been fighting with this car for 3 weeks. I made a really good pass about 3 weeks ago, and I had to abort it though at about 4 seconds in the run, I think it was, because it had leaned out. And I know, you know, I thought it was just that I didn't have enough pump, which I think it is still, that I didn't have enough pump. But what happened was I went ahead and threw on a set of pumps, the Holley Sniper pumps, that are like two 044s, and then I have a third 044. And it seemed like in the process of doing that it was acting funny. It was acting real. It was misbehaving as I was spooling it up, and I'd done so much spool up. Well, here's what happened last Friday, not this, you know, a few days ago, a week ago Friday. Thursday night, I had gotten it to where it spooled up, had plenty of fuel, everything was doing good, it was great. Well, I decided that Friday I was going to go ahead and go through the transmission, because I probably have, I don't know, 500 spool ups on this thing, and sometimes it was taking 7 to 10 seconds. You know, that's just it's like 300 and some degrees on the converter over and over and over again. And I'll show you that converter here in a second, but just to go over it. But basically what happened was I was having issues where if I spooled up like 2 times in a row, it would start puking out the breather valve, the breather port on the top of the transmission. And I was like, okay, well, I think this pump is getting bad. And so that's what usually happens. It starts to aerate the oil, and then it comes out the top of the pump case. So then after I kept doing it, because I was having this weird lean out situation, I kept swapping pumps, trying all kinds of things, changing map sensors, changing the ECU, all kinds of stuff. Well, it ended up, I finally was spooling it up, and it started leaking out the converter seal. And I'm like, well, I guess it's time. So Friday, I had spooled it up fine on Thursday night. Thought I got it all sorted out. I think I did get it all sorted out, but I went ahead and pulled the tranny out on Friday morning, 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, and pulled it out. Said, okay, I'm going to go through this tranny. We'll take it on Friday night. Things should be good. Well, went through the tranny, put the converter back in. I didn't have it cut open to look at or anything like that. It didn't look as bad as it looks right now, so I guess I must have not been as bad. But I put it in. Everything was working good. It spooled up great. I'm like, okay, we're off to the races. And then the next thing I do, I try spooling it up again, and then it starts to, like, midway, maybe 2,000 RPM, it's kind of like grabbing and lugging the motor down and making it like almost it opened up my blow-off valve is what really happened. It was kind of a weird phenomenon that was happening. So I still didn't think, honestly, that it was a converter. I was still going back to all these problems because all this started when I tried to add another fuel pump in. And so I was, again, going back to the drawing board, checking. I did have a problem with a fuel pressure regulator that I did find out. I had a few problems, actually, now that I did find out. That's a nice thing about going through these problems. You find some issues that you have. So the fuel pressure regulator was leaking through I'll throw a video here. The fuel pressure regulator was leaking through the diaphragm, leaking fuel. So that means it's not giving the proper pressure as well. That could have been what the lean out problem was, to be honest with you. Because I don't know. I had 2 good pumps on there. Should have been able to keep up to at least 1,000 horsepower, right around 1,000. But it is the 85. You use a little more, so it's hard to say. Anyway, it was having issues. I was going through. I put a dedicated line from the manifold to the regulator, which is what I always recommend people do. And then I put a dedicated line to the map sensor and just bypassed everything else. It was still, what was happening this time was that it would not rev over 1400. And it's odd. Usually when a converter will break, what'll happen is it'll stall the engine when you put it in gear because it's locked up like a clutch is engaged. But it didn't do it this time. It would go into gear fine. And then as soon as I started to rev it, and these engines don't make any power, 1200, so you really don't know what's going on. And so it just seemed like it wasn't making any power to get it up on the converter. Well, it ended up being that the converter was messed up and it would not allow it to go past 1400. And so therefore there's no boost, no power. I was looking at everything. So, jump back now to this week of getting ready for the racing. I had let it sit for a while. I took another converter down to have it looked at and loosened up a little bit if he could do anything with it. It's an 8-inch, but it has a positive slant on the fins, and so it was pretty tight before. I've already tried it once. And so I'm like, okay, well, if he can loosen it, at least this will be a test. I don't like to do anything without having the parts here to just pull it out, put it together. So the transmission, I had already put new clutches and everything in it, so it should be good. Well, so here's what happened. I basically got my little truck ready for this race on Friday night. They call it the Friday Night Fights. It's kind of a street-ish, and I say ish it's liberally. Because there's not a lot of street cars, including probably mine. But so the truck is ready. I got it ready. I was just going to run on the little tiny tires just to do it, support the track, and have fun. I had it all ready to go. Well, Friday afternoon, they called me, and I was in kind of relaxing to get ready to go have fun that night. And they called me at 2:30 that my converter was ready. I'm like, okay, well, I'll go grab it. So I went and grabbed it, and I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I can have this tranny out in 15 minutes. I can have it back in. If I just do the converter, I'll be done in about 45 minutes, and, shoot, it'd be easy. So, and maybe I can take this car because it's a bit faster than the truck. So that's what I did. Went and grabbed the converter, pulled the transmission out. Noticed when I pulled the transmission out that I had forgotten to tighten down the band, the set screw for the band. There's a nut on there for the band adjustment, and it had backed out. And I'd been doing some spool tests, so I think what was happening is it was letting the band slip on the drum. Not to do anything with the what not working or working, but I saw a bunch of the fluid was kind of dark, and there was a bunch of like little, it was just like fibers in the oil. And so I just said, well, let me pull this thing apart. So I got it out on the tranny table again. And this is at approximately, I don't know, man, I think probably 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, something like that by the time I got to that point. Went ahead and pulled the tranny out, pulled the pump, pulled the pan, looked, saw that the drum was pretty shiny, and because I could just barely peek in there and see it. So I went ahead and pulled the valve body. Then I could see it pretty clearly. And so then I pulled the pump, I changed the band, the drum looked good, so I just left it. So put it back together, got the tranny back together, probably, I don't know, 5:30. It didn't take, power glides, they don't take very long. But put it back together probably about 5:30 or so. Threw it up in the car and got it back working. Probably about, I don't know, maybe close to 6 or something like that. Maybe 6:30. I don't know, somewhere in there. It was late. I could be off a little on my time because I know when a friend of mine called and I had just got it down, and he called me at approximately 6:30 asking if I was going to the track. And I told him, well, I just got the tranny back in. So somewhere in that timeline. So went to stall it up. I got fluid, did it, changed the fluid, all that. And sure enough, worked fine. I'm like, all right, here we go. Well, that brings us up to where we're at. I was like, okay, the truck's already loaded up. What am I going to do? The car, now at this time, I had changed so much stuff trying to figure out this problem that now I was worried about, like, okay, is the car even going to be proper? But I thought about it, I'm like, well, anything that I did, I can undo pretty easily in the tune and whatever I need to do. So I said, okay, I decided. So I just pulled the car down, washed it, loaded it, went in, took a shower, went to the track. That brings us up to the Friday night fights, which is something the local track is putting together that, it's to keep guys from going out street racing. And, there's a lot of pretty fast cars that are still, wanting to do some street oriented stuff. So it's a flashlight start, 60-foot start, no prep. And so it's kind of good. I prefer to do it on the top end myself, but I'm fine with it here because the brakes I don't feel are that capable right now in this car to run that fast from the finish line. So I get there. I didn't take any videos, so this one's going to be an explanation and then some videos of what happened over the course of the night. And I'll try to mix them in. I'll just explain it now, and then you guys can watch the videos in sequence because editing, forget about it. But anyway, so I'm old, man. If I was a young guy, I'd probably have all this stuff figured out and I'll just knock it out real quick, but it ain't like that. I'm still trying to figure out all this software on this stuff, so it all takes a while, But we do what we can do, and as long as I'm still having fun doing it, I guess that's really what matters more. So we're Friday night, pull up, pay the money. It's basically a free entry into this deal. They're paying out $500 plus the money that people put in. And so, it's not a lot of money, but it's fun. And the lineup, just to kind of go over initially what there was, 7 or 8 cars that started at first, I think is what it was. Tesla Plaid. I know there was a 4-wheel drive nitrous Chevy truck. There was the cars that I know of that were fast. Well, Juan McGill, he hurt his transmission. He's won it the last couple times. So kind of, break on that for me as far as that goes, or for everybody in that regard, because his car's pretty fast. So he had a problem he just changed a converter, and he was puking fluid and caught it on fire actually that night. So he didn't run, and but it was there ready to go. And then we had a turbo Coyote Fox body, a turbo LS, I think it's a 408 they have in that LS Fox body. Then there's a centrifugal supercharger Fox body, Coyote, or not Fox body, but I forget what the S195 or whatever that is, that the 2014 Mustangs, I forget what they are. I think it's 195 or something like that. But it's a Coyote with a centrifugal, and that runs pretty good. That's Pacus. His car, he's won this thing before as well. And then Spike's street truck, I guess. I don't know. He has a bunch of trucks, so I don't know what this one necessarily is, but it's a turbo LS deal. They all are, but generally they're pretty light. He's got them all down pretty light, those pickups. And trying to think of what other, I don't know. That's the main ones I can think of right now. So we'll go through it. The videos will show. So we go do the chip draw, and I get the third pair left lane. I have not ran this car in the left lane. Matter of fact, I haven't even raced against anybody at all in this car. It's only been just mostly 60-foot, 330, a couple 8 miles. That's it. I haven't done, I've got it running in February, and here we are in July, and I barely kind of started going down the 8th mile with it. last month was like the first full 8 miles I've been doing. So I drew Spike, and they have a full program. You know, I have 4 guys. They have a guy that drives the truck, guys work on it. You know, it's a full deal. Like, they brought another badass truck out there too. So this may not be why, but they always have a big crew. All these guys have a big crew. I go out there, a couple friends help me. I roll up. You'll see in the videos. It's the same way it is when I race Ryan. The same way with everything. I just roll up and do my thing. Probably should do more. Maybe I'll go a little better. I don't know. In the future, maybe I'll get a little more professional. You know, I ain't gonna be hiring a crew. I can assure you that, because I can't afford it. But so, man, I need to get a new backdrop. This is kind of bad. Let me turn around here. Maybe it'll look a little better. But the glare of that might be bad. It's gonna be the same. Anyway, well, forget about it. Who cares about my crap in my mug? Hey, we got some insulation in here. You check that out. That's helped out. Got my little mini split, so it's staying now. I just kicked it on. It's 80 right now. It's about 100 out, so we're doing pretty good. Okay, so I draw a Spike, and we go ahead and we go through our routine to burn out, line up. I wanted to get right on the line. The guy kept telling me no, and I said, well, I don't have a bump box, so I want to get right on the line. He didn't speak too much English, the guy that was over on that side, so I don't think he understood what I was doing. My friends weren't really relaying it to him what I wanted. But so anyway, the guy was wanting me to pull up, and I'm like, no, I'm not moving anywhere, man. I got to get on the trans brake. So, and I told him, I'm not bumping in, so I need to spool up. You know, I need to give me on the waves is fine, but I need to be on the line. So anyway, I go in first, which was good, and so I got up on the brake, not too high. I wasn't even on the 2-step. When I took off, from what I can hear. I'm watching the video, see Spike's driver bumps in, and we take off. And his driver said that something happened with him, that he couldn't see the light through the pillar. He saw me, you know, and I kind of get that sometimes, because I had that happen in the second round. I'll talk about that here in a second as well. But he said something like that. They were going to buy back, but they decided not to. I feel like I pulled away from him. I had, but if you watch the video, I don't know if you're going to be able to zoom in on it because it's at the top end. I'll try to put, I'll try to put maybe some little text or something in there to show like what happened. Man, I hadn't ran that left lane, and I kind of drifted over to the left, and I got out of the groove a little bit, and the right tire grabbed pretty hard and pushed me real hard to the left. And then I corrected it, and then it grabbed back, and it really shot me over into the right-hand lane. Fortunately, I was pretty far ahead of him at that point. It was after the finish line. Probably did it right at the finish line, the drifting, and then the moving back over was after the finish line. And so fortunately, they called the win for me on that, because it happened afterwards. And I'm glad that he wasn't. I'm glad that he wasn't trucking on me on the top end. That allowed me to have some space to get out my fuckery. But so anyway, got that first round win. Was surprised. Didn't think I would beat that truck. I haven't done anything. So the car also was feeling like garbage. It was getting. Everybody thought it was spicy, but it was kind of on boost, off boost, on boost, off boost. I probably rattled the mains out of this thing, I don't doubt. But it was really strange, and I'll explain what happened. Through all my testing, let me go show you real quick so you can get a better idea of what we're talking about here. Through all my testing, I had, like I said, I'd done a dedicated map sensor and a dedicated fuel pressure regulator, and I eliminated this vibrant block here, right? And so what I had done was I had just taken this off, ran this hose to here, and then I looped this around. Well, I didn't think about it too much, but pretty much what that does is it doesn't give any pressure to the blow-off valve. It doesn't give any pressure to this wastegate. It doesn't give any pressure to that wastegate. And yeah, so all this is non-existent. So it's all off a spring, which, these things work at like 10 pounds or 15 pounds max. it made 30 pounds. It didn't make any power, so I'm really lucky that I got out on him and went. And the 60 foot on that one, on the draggy, I think it was a 134. So still pretty good, honestly. So a 134 on the draggy is probably a 130 or somewhere on the lights, but who knows? You know, the draggy is, I've found though, it's about a half attempt. So anyway, that one, so I fixed those lines, and I'm like, all right, well, we got something now. So then second round, I draw the Rainia's, that's a Coyote, turbo Coyote Fox body, which to me was probably one of the heavy hitters there when I was thinking about the whole thing. And Juan McGill, obviously, with his Mustang. So I'm like, okay, well, this one's going to be tough. And so I still didn't have any tune in it, though, because it was real rich on that run, but it was only 30 pounds, so I didn't know what it was going to do. I just said, well, I don't want to go and have to abort the run midway, so I'm just going to leave the boost turned down where it normally is. And it's a manual boost controller, so I don't really have, like, I can't just sit there and go, this is what I want in a computer and use air to control the wastegates. I'm using manuals, which I found works good as long as you remember where you were at and put your settings. So that's what I did. So I ran the second round. I go up, we chip draw. I got the right lane, and we were first pair. I think it was first pair. And so I'm happy because the right lane, I'm comfortable in the right lane. I feel good about it, everything. So this is the only weird discrepancy on this race. I feel like this race, I had it, if you watch the video, you'll see he had been spinning all night long. So to be honest with you, unless they had come up with some kind of miracle to make that car work between rounds, I felt like I had it. And I'm sure they would probably, maybe they wouldn't agree, I don't know, but whatever. In my mind, I feel like no matter what, I would have had that race, just for that I was hooking, and I did hook. So the second round was against the Turbo Coyote Fox, and I had fixed my boost issue, and it came up on boost on the converter way better than what it did before, obviously, with the wastegates working and the blow-off valve working and all that. So I get up there, I stage in first. I think I asked them at stage first. They said they spool it pretty quick, so I'm like, okay, well, I'll go first then. So I go in first, and it's kind of taking a little bit. I don't know what's going on over there. I'm up on the converter, and it starts to, you know, like it's up on the two-step, and it's popping, and I'm worried it's going to run away with boost if I just sit there too long. That's where having an electronic boost controller would probably be a benefit to me. But you know, I'm stubborn and I stick to this crap. But anyway, so I'll show, the video will happen. I'll show you what happens. Some people thought it was a jump. So there's two things that happened. I was watching the light, and I was in the right lane, so I was able to look left. I could see the nose of his car, and I could see the light. And you watch the video closely, I'll show two videos. One is just of my car, and you can see the light. I feel pretty dead on the light. And I suppose you might have been able to call it a jump at some point, possibly, but it was pretty damn close, real close. But the reason you couldn't call it a jump was because he did my 3, I was up on boost. He did his 3, and then he did the chop line, you know, like how you just go like this. So he'd done that, right? Well, right, like as he's pulling up on the light, the left lane car goes forward. Like, I don't know whether he was bumping, what the hell he was doing, but he moved and I went. Well, it happened to be basically at the same time as the light, but I saw his move, or I saw something, like it caught my attention. I let go of the button. Like I just was acting on instinct of light or move. That was where I was at. So boom, jumped out good. 130 or 127 on the draggy. Pretty fast. Like, 127 on the draggy, which probably is my best 60 foot, to be honest with you. And you watch it, it's, other than I need to straighten out the wheelie just a little bit, I feel like it was pretty darn good. It ran good, great 330. And then I did have, and this is going to some things where I need to kind of pay attention to my program a little bit more. during all this process, I've been messing with all these hoses and everything. So I had one pop off of my small wastegate. It wouldn't have been a problem with just that small wastegate because it's just spring, and it probably would have just boosted a little more than what it was normally, the 15 pounds. But it also relieves pressure on that whole system for the other wastegate and for the blow-off valve. So it kind of dropped power. It was going really good, and then it dropped power about 400 feet out. And I'm like, damn, what the heck? So I get back and look, and it's that hose, and I assumed that's all it was. Should have really scrutinized it a little more, but to be totally truthful with you, I was parked next to Kevin and his brother and his family and his friends, and I that's the Turbo Fox body. He had just switched it over to Holly Dominator methanol, no radiator, no nothing in the car. So it's a little less street than my car, but we're it's similar kind of build cars, but mine's just a 4-cylinder. But anyway, I talked to him. I said, hey, do you want to split it? Anything can happen in the finals. I know it's not a lot of money, but at least it's something, like at least we're going home with something. And so they said, yeah, that's cool, because between friends, that's kind of, I feel like I feel like it maintains a better friendship if you can just be, good sportsmen and split it and don't, because, man, listen, what happened to him, I hate that it happened to him, and so, but I am glad that we split it ahead of time. Just so then that comes to the final, and the final, it's not coming up on boost. Didn't do a great burnout. I knew there was something weird. I could hear it. I could hear air pushing somewhere, and as soon as I was spooling it up, well, we go. I go in first, he goes in second, everything's kind of normal. I heard, it took a little while, and I was hearing the pops on his, and I'd let off the gas a little bit on mine because I didn't know what was going on over there. I didn't want to just sit there on the two-step. And so I think he caught me right as I was letting off and going back on the gas, because I came out on like 0 boost compared to what I would have been at least 10, 15 pounds. So I don't know. It was a crappy 60 foot. So I got a bird's eye view of what happened to him. So in this case, what happened in the final was he got out on me. He would have won the race. It would have been easy pickings for him because I didn't have any power. I wasn't 60 foot or anything. And I think it would have been a very good race because we talked about times before, and I think we're pretty close. This car's been running mid-5s, 550s. I did get a really good 330 3 weeks ago that shows it's probably going to be 530, 520, hopefully somewhere in that range. And then the one against the Mustang, the 330, was also good, that it looked like it probably would have been a pretty low 5. So if I can ever put together a real run, we're going to go fast. But anyway, so I watched him. I was going so slow, I might as well have been driving anything other. And I watched him get out, and then all of a sudden just went hard left and then turned completely sideways, saw his headlights pointing at me. And so that one, I just cruised it out, and so that's how I got the win. First competition for the Compound 2.0 Fox body that I just put together and was fully untuned, rich as dog shit. I'm surprised it wasn't popping. My wideband only goes to 11.2 for some reason. That's its bottom mark. Well, it sat on 11.2, flatlined it, even on spool up. So I know now with these pumps, it has a lot more fuel. And so I need to do some tuning to get it sorted out. But, I'm happy. I'm thankful that everybody came out safe and everything was good. It could have been a bad night. Juan McGill, fortunately, there was somebody there with a fire extinguisher. And I'm going to say this as a public service announcement right now because I burnt up probably my favorite car that I've had in the last 10 years. It was my little Black Eagle Talon automatic. And it was a tiny little fire when I opened the hood. And then before I knew it, the car was burning the engine bay, and then it burnt the whole car. Had I had a fire extinguisher, I could have saved that car in 10 seconds or less, and so I have them in everything now. So all you guys that don't run a fire extinguisher in your car, I highly recommend you throw one in there because anything can happen, and it can be a tiny little fire. That's what mine was, a tiny little fire, ended up just taking out the whole, because once it catches fluids and plastics and all that, it just takes off. And so you know, if you can catch it when it's smaller and put it out, then you probably save it back, because it did wheelie out pretty good on that run. But I may have to switch weight around too at this point, because I don't want to end up tightening it up so much, because if you tighten it up, it'll just pull the tires and just carry them with it, you know, with it just not extended. So I don't think it's going to make that much difference if I tighten them, because you can see in the video on the second pass that it pretty much pulls the tires up and the shocks are still dropping. So probably need some weight in the front. But on to next what we're doing, because I feel like, okay, now I know I got a competitive car. It's mid-5s. Even with a lot of garbage, it ran a mid-5. I couldn't believe it. And so I ordered a map sensor. I was going to try this low dollar sensor, but it didn't scale right. I may have to try to figure out how to do that. It's supposed to be just a 5-bar, I thought, with the data sheet that it matched up to the AEM one close enough that it would be that, but it didn't. So I ordered the AEM one. So I'm going to put that on this week, and we're going to turn it up because I'm basically ready to put. I got this engine right here. The short block is put together, and that is an aluminum rod motor that should be able to handle quite a bit more power than one's in there. And but I'm going to run this one until it starts to give me any weird reasoning not to. And I'm going to turn it up and pull the timing down a little bit and see if we can't get it, you know, 510 or somewhere in that area out of this engine, and then put the other one in and zing it up pretty good. So I think that's it, really. I'm just going to change the map sensor and then start tuning on Friday. You know, I like to start rich, and it's already rich, so I'll probably just leave it rich, turn up the boost, see what kind of boost we end up, because on these runs, on the second run, the max boost, because you got to remember I fudged around with everything, so I had turned the boost down just for fear of, I didn't know what it was going to do, and it made 44 pounds probably in 2 seconds. It was 29 off the hit, and then 44 within 2 seconds, probably a second and a half, I would guess. And then that's about where it stayed, and then it dropped because it lost that hose, and it actually lost a coupler, is what I found out. The coupler from the small turbo into the intercooler had slid off because it's a weird angle. So I changed the coupler to a longer coupler. That should not happen again. So I think we got that sorted out. And then man, one thing is I like those push lock fittings that you can use with the plastic hose, but shark bites, I think they call them. But some of these wastegates and these fuel pressure regulators don't have the right fitting for that. Now, I don't know, maybe there's a smaller one that I could get. I might look into that. But so I have to run little silicone hose on the ends of them. And so I went ahead and zip tied all those, so they should be held at least hopefully good. But I know as I turn the boost up, I'm going to have to make sure the stuff is secure. The more pressure you make, the more it's going to push on that stuff. So, but that's where we're at. That's what's going to happen next week. I'm happy the engine's running good. I'm not getting anything in the catch can. It's clean. Like I get a little tiny bit in the catch can, but it's to be expected because of where the exit is on it. And probably put different tires on, because these tires again are 10 years old. They're surprisingly working, but this car does seem to just look pretty good. But that's it. That's what we're going to do. And I'll start showing the videos now. And I don't know if I'm going to dice it up. I probably won't. I'll probably just put this all together. You guys can listen to me talk for whatever time. And then watch the videos and see the sequence of events that happened. And hopefully I'll get some more content. I'm going to try to get a different editing software. The reason why I'm frustrated, to be honest with you, and I don't know if anybody has any recommendations on editing software. I want to ask a couple of people, because I've been using this Mavavi editing software, but it seems like every single time something happens with it, that for one, it lost all they took away all the music that they were using before, so some of the music themes that I was able to use were no longer there. And then they did an update, and with the update, then they made me rebuy it again. Well, I didn't rebuy it. If you look at the last video, I had their stupid thing going across it and talking through it, which really frustrated me because I didn't know what was happening while it was rendering. But I don't really want to spend another $200 on that software. I would spend it if I knew it was going to last for a while, but it seems to, like, every time there's an update or something, then you have to rebuy it, and I don't feel that's correct. You know, it's only been 6 months I've been even playing with that stuff, so shouldn't have to be doing. I've already spent $600 on that software, which is stupid, so I'm not doing it again. So I'll find something else. But for now, I'm just going to throw this video together, and you can watch the racing and see how it unfolds. And I do recommend all you guys that watch my channel, the few that watch my channel, check out Cars and Karens. Cars and the and sign, Karens with an S on the end of it, K-E-R-E-N-S. It's kind of harder to find, I noticed. But he did a really good video with a bunch of background, the arguing, and all that stuff that's going on. So check that out. His name's Jesse. It's pretty cool. Again, thank you to Ciro, his son. I need to get his name embedded in my brain. And Leo for taking the videos for me. And you guys have a good day and enjoy the videos. Thank you very much.